Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera. My name is Muhammad bin Muhammad Tawil from Ministry of Environment and Water or KASA. Today I would like to present my master research entitled Adoption of Circular Economy Approach in Developing Preliminary Policy Framework for Plastic Waste in Malaysia. This is the outline of my presentation today. Just a brief introduction as a background of this study. Plastic production has surpassed almost all other materials since 1950s due to its low cost, flexibility and functionality. Nowadays, plastic products are everywhere and people are using it in daily life. Plastic products are mostly single-use and which most of them discarded in very short of time but take until 400 years to degrade. Plastic largest market is packaging, which account for 40% of the market share. About 8% of the world's oil production is used to make plastic and is projected to rise until 20% in 2050. In terms of environmental impacts, plastic waste cause blockages of waterways and drainage system, breeding grounds for mosquitoes and pests, polluting the oceans, damaging the food chain, and also contaminating soil and fresh water. Plastic pollution costs billions of dollars annually in economic damage to marine ecosystems and after-use externalities, as well as greenhouse gases emission. Since 1950, only 9% of the plastic waste that have been generated were recycled, 12% of them were incinerated, and 79% accumulated in landfills or leaked into the environment. Based on the rising problems caused by plastic, there is now a growing international motion to rethink all stages of the plastic life cycle through the transition from the linear economy to circular economy. This slide highlighted some of the global issues regarding the plastic waste. It is estimated 8 million metric tons of plastic waste come into the ocean each year, meaning that by 2050, the ocean could contain more plastic than fish by weight. Studies show that around 60% of marine global plastics enters the ocean from just 6 countries, including Malaysia. The plastic waste problem in Malaysia is a growing concern. The high percentage of mismanaged plastic in Malaysia, which is one of the highest in the world, shows that there are some weaknesses and flaws in the current waste management system and policy. According to the National Solid Waste Management Department statistics in 2015, Malaysians remove hundreds million worth of recyclable, including plastics. Although the total recycling rate has been increasing in Malaysia yearly, the rate is still relatively low compared to other developed countries. Therefore, the country is in dire need of an overarching and effective policy instruments based on circular economy to be introduced and implemented by the government to overcome the plastic problem. In this study, 2 research questions will be addressed. 3 objectives of this study are to review Malaysia's current policy on single-use plastic reduction and conduct comparative analysis of the policy with other countries' policy, namely European Union or EU and Japan. Second, to acquire and analyze inputs for circular economy policy framework by conducting qualitative analysis on the information from related stakeholders and literatures. And thirdly, to develop a formulation for preliminary policy framework for circular economy of plastic to enhance its effectiveness in curbing its problem in Malaysia. Next, a brief literature review on the concept of circular economy. According to Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, Ontario, Canada, 2017, a circular economy strives to minimize the use of raw materials, maximize the useful life of materials, and minimize waste generated. While according to Letsham 2018, a circular economy allows materials constantly flow around a closed-loop system rather than being used only once in a short lifespan and then disposed. In the case of plastics, this means keeping the value of plastics in the economy and concurrently prevent leakage into the natural environment. Currently, there are a few circular economy policy framework and initiatives at the international level for plastics, including first, New Plastic Economy Global Commitment by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, supported by UN Environment Programme or UNEP. Second, the Ocean Plastic Charter by G7 Countries Alliance. Third, the G20 Implementation Framework for Actions on Marine Plastic Litter, and European Union's Plastic Strategy. Research methodology. This study adopted a mixed method approach. First, two set policies from EU and Japan were selected for comparative analysis. The comparative analysis is conducted to identify the gaps and weaknesses in the current Malaysia's policy. Secondly, a semi-structured interview were conducted with key stakeholders including the government agencies, industry players, and also NGO. From the findings of the comparative study, the policies are evaluated based on how essential they are to a comprehensive policy effort and how much impact they are likely to have in addressing plastic packaging waste and how dependent they are on other policies. The policies considered can be defined as general and targeted. These are the current general and targeted plastic policy in EU, Japan, and Malaysia respectively. General policies are the policies that are central to a comprehensive effort, including source reduction, source separation, and separate collection, the setting of national targets for reduction, reuse, recycling, and recovery, and landfill restrictions and bans. While targeted policies are building upon this core set of policies, and more directed set of policies address specific aspects or stakeholders with respect to packaging recovery. This is the summary of findings based on the comparative study on the plastic-related law and regulations from EU, Japan, and Malaysia. For comprehensive policy package, the government has launched the Malaysia's roadmap towards zero single-use plastic 2018-2030. While in marine litter legislation, Malaysia is lacking of that, and also the packaging recycling regulation. For source separation, the Solid Waste and Public Cleansing Management Act 2007 has the measures on it after amendment in 2015, but it has limitation as it only applicable in 7 states in Peninsular Malaysia, and its effectiveness is indistinct. Malaysia's roadmap towards zero single-use plastic has target to eliminate the use of single-use plastic by 2030. In terms of extended producer responsibility or EPR, there is currently no EPR system in any material implemented in Malaysia. From the review of the existing regulation and legislations, we could observe that the government has made policy inroads in a few areas. Nevertheless, the implementation and enforcement of these policies is rather incomplete or limited. It is found that there are 3 consistent themes and underlying principles in both policy framework and implementation in EU and Japan. They are first, prioritization of waste management initiatives, 2, setting of measurable targets, and 3, circular economy and life cycle approach. These key principles that are something lacking in Malaysian context. From the thematic analysis, 3 key empirical themes have emerged from the analysis, namely, first, policy interventions, second, collaborative efforts, and extended producer responsibility or EPR. In terms of policy interventions, stronger policy interventions are needed to address the gaps and challenges throughout the plastic's life cycle from material extraction until the final disposal. Government's initiatives also needed to encourage producers to reduce the unnecessary use of plastic, increase reuse, recycling and recovery, and treat post-consumer plastic as valuable materials instead of waste. In terms of collaborative efforts, a successful transition to the circular economy for plastic requires appropriate policies that's supported by strong collaboration between and within government, industry, and also society. For Extended Producer Responsibility or EPR, it is a scheme that has been proven to be an effective measure for circular economy transition in some developed countries, including EU and Japan. Enforcement of EPR schemes could fill the gap in regulating the recycling industry in Malaysia. This is the EPR basic setup and also the benefits of it. EPR scheme is based on the polluter pays principle. EPR law and regulations shall be introduced by the government to determine brand owners and products subject to EPR, defines standards for fee modulation, set targets for collecting and recycling, monitors compliance and enforces legal EPR framework. And EPR can be set up using the following model. Significance of study. According to Malaysia's roadmap towards zero single-use plastic 2018-2030, a circular economy roadmap or CER for plastic will be launched in near future and to be implemented in phase 2. Therefore, the study could potentially contribute to the establishment of Malaysia's first formal policy on circular economy for plastic by the government, which will be able to define the nation's way forward on reducing plastic consumption to keep abreast with the government's vision to completely removing single-use plastic from our economy by 2030. Conclusions. The circular economy concept has been proven to be an effective solution to address plastic problems in developed countries like in the EU and Japan, and it is time for Malaysia to adopt and customize the idea. The adoption of circular economy concept into a policy framework for plastic, coupled with strong collaborative efforts and right system, will contribute to a sustainable solid waste management system in Malaysia. Existing policies in managing plastic waste in Malaysia are not robust enough to tackle its negative impacts. Recommendations. The transition to circular economy needs a comprehensive policy framework based on 3 principles. First, waste management hierarchy, setting up of measurable targets, and life cycle approach. Collaborative efforts must be strengthened. Therefore, the establishment of Malaysia Sustainable Plastic Alliance or MASPA is the right platform for the government, industry players, and other stakeholders to work together in the effort to develop the circular plastic economy. An extended producer responsibility scheme is the most recommended policy tool for the transition towards a circular economy for plastic based on its proven effectiveness. Its mechanism must be tailored to the need and the structure of Malaysian economy. The legal framework should outline clear objectives, responsibilities, enforcement mechanism, and a timeline for implementation, and should involve the role of federal and state governments, local authorities, producers, business owners, and public. With that, thank you.